as well as Dave. So she is one of the nation's leading experts. So we're lucky to have her in-house and online today.
Yes, thank you all
Well,
very
thank you,
much.
Trigby.
So, welcome everybody. The live
First
stream
question
is
from
live. So, hold on a second. Let me do my intro, please, and
all
then
right.
we'll go in. Welcome to our webinar. We have a bunch of fantastic questions already in for what's new in from Inbound 2025. We have Alex here with HubSpot. He is our champion and our very best HubSpot friend. So, Alex, welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, gang.
And we also have Jen, who is BusyWeb's head of HubSpot, and of course, Trigvi, who evidently in today's event goes by Dave Myers. So congrats on the downgrade, I guess, Trigvi, but it's good to have you here. We have a ton of people in attendance. If you do have questions during today's event, we have those via either the Q&A tool or in chat. So go ahead and log those, and we're super excited to have you all here. Without further ado, Trigby, there was one question that already
Yeah,
popped up.
first question, is there anything that Jen doesn't do for BusyWeb? I think easy answer, we haven't figured that out yet.
Yes.
Oh, you guys are all sweet. Thank you.
All right. Well, we've got a ton of questions and we've got a lot of stuff to get through. So, Alex, take it away.
Yeah, well, thanks again for having me, folks. Not my first time on one of these sessions with you all, but always a pleasure to be here. And I think probably the biggest group I've ever at least been a part of. So thanks everyone for attending here. So we're just going to jump into it because I think the story of it is that, over the last couple of years, HubSpot has really settled into this twice a year event, what we call Spotlight. The fall spotlight coincides very nicely with the first day of Inbound. This year, Inbound was in San Francisco. Whether you were there in person or not, the reality that you're probably facing is what a good problem to have, but it does sometimes feel like a problem. There is just so much information coming out of HubSpot. The pace of innovation is crazy. There's no one that works harder than the HubSpot product team. So what does it all mean? What does it mean for me if I'm already a HubSpot customer? What does it mean for me if I'm HubSpot curious? What does it mean for me for anyone here just trying to wrap their arms around the pace of innovation and all this exciting stuff? So primary purpose of today is really just to kind of unpack like what are the key highlights. We'll have some follow-up resources for sure for you guys that goes a little deeper on the things we talked about here today. But the first thing I'm just going to say is that there are 200 plus discrete product updates that were announced. We literally cannot cover every single one of them. So in some cases where possible, we'll kind of group and categorize certain things and try to make those distinctions as clear as possible. But really, we're going to make sure we touch on every single category. Again, maybe not every single distinct update in every one of the hubs or every one of the categories, but we're gonna run the gamut here as best we can. So appreciate you guys being along for the ride. And no better way to start than really just like with what I think was one of the big headlines coming out of Inbound was this concept of loop marketing. So no reason to wait. We'll jump right into it. I think if you have been a HubSpot fan for any amount of time, right? Like the BusyWeb folks we have here on the call who have been a HubSpot partner for a decade plus, back in the early days when HubSpot was really basically just a marketing and blogging app. And we were really on the forefront of the concept of inbound marketing, right? It's the name of the conference for Pete's sake. So when we get to this point in time now where I'm sure a lot of people, if not everyone on this call are thinking like, gosh, the world is changing so fast around me. It's AI this, it's AI that. The whole ship that got us here, this concept of inbound marketing, content marketing, feels like it's changing right under our feet. And we feel that too. So I think if you've spent much time thinking about content marketing and SEO and paid advertising, like it just seems like every day there's a new article written about how fast and drastically this is all shifting. And just to put some assurance behind that, like we feel that too, right? There's been a lot of very highly publicized content about how HubSpot's blogging and how well and effectively we had ranked for a lot of keywords on time has in some cases kind of fallen off a cliff in the last 6 months. And like that can be really scary to think about how fast things are changing and like what do I got to do to adapt here? So we've seen a lot of these changes. I think you guys have probably felt some of these changes, and so we decided to introduce this concept of loop marketing. So I think really the important thing here, my biggest takeaway is that like the concept of inbound marketing is not dead. This is very much an evolution rather than a revolution, right? So a
Kind of
lot of the
inbound
core
on
principles are still
steroids,
there.
right? It,
Exactly, Jen, right? It's like think about like the primary principles that allowed us to succeed in the early world of content marketing. Those principles are still there. Right? Like content is still extremely valuable, but the way that we get that content in front of the right people at the right time, that has fundamentally changed big time.
Absolutely. And this was one of the most exciting ones because, as you said, especially with the evolution of AI and everything, people are really hesitant. They're either hesitant to embrace it or they're like embracing it fully. One nice thing that HubSpot did at Inbound was they really made sure to say you really need that human touch in there still. You can't just rely on AI. We really need, AI is great and it's going to get you 60% of the way there, but you still need to edit. You still need to prompt it right. You still need to manage and tweak and like look at your results because it doesn't just fix all the things. It just helps your speed to market, really, to get your
Yeah,
market there.
I think that's spot on, right? Like the existential sort of dread around AI, I think is very relatable. I think about this all the time, but I think Jen is spot on that like at the end of the day, it's humans making decisions, right? That's in the inputs as well. It's like we have to know what questions to ask ChatGPT, right? A human still needs to type that in. And on the receiving end, like for buyers and purchasers and our ICP out there, it's like it's still humans that are making these buying decisions too. So like keeping the emotional intelligence and the human centric why behind things at the center of everything, that is not changing at all. But it's very much like hands-on keyboards, what tools we use to research, develop, go to market, find success, show delight, all those things is just it's the tools and the framework that's changing more than anything else. And so I'd say like probably like the biggest headline concept that really underpins this, I alluded to it before, is just AEO, right? It sounds like SEO because it's basically the same thing, right? I think the idea that like more and more people are starting to use AI as a replacement for Google, or even if they're still going to Google, right? There's a lot of statistics about how many people are actually just consuming the AI summaries and not ever actually clicking a link. Right. So we see a lot of that stuff with the changing of the metrics around like search traffic is going down, fewer website visits, but we want to understand that if this is a whole new audience in the way that over all the years with, all the rank braying and Google algorithm changes, we had to constantly iterate on how do I design my content so it is best served in the search engine. It's the same principle here. How do I create content that is best served or more likely to be served for someone who is searching in a large language model, someone who's on ChatGPT doing the research about making a purchase decision? It's again a lot of the same principles. Like the humans are inclined to do research before they make a big decision. Where they're doing the research, how they're doing the research, that's what's changing here. So this concept of AEO will come up a few times today, and I think if nothing else, like that's one of like the most clear examples of how loop marketing is keeping a lot of the core principles, but sort of evolving the framework and the strategies and the tools that we use to win in these spaces.
Well, and one thing that I heard in one of the sessions that I went to also is that for the first time in a long time, HubSpot updated their original traffic source metric to include an AI link. So it will tell you how many links you're getting to your website from those AI sources and things like that. So that's
Yeah,
exciting.
it's a great call out because again, we're already starting to see this. And I think like the old playbook of like, yeah, if someone lands on your website, maybe through organic search or paid search or whatever, like we can infer something about that. It's like, okay, they found us for some reason, but like maybe they are nowhere near making a purchasing decision. What we're seeing a lot now is that like people are spending more time inside the models doing a longer version of the awareness and consideration aspect of things. So by the time they land on your website, especially if it's the referral sources from an AI tool like Jen's referring to here, it means they're probably extremely qualified, right? Because they're much further down the funnel. They've sort of self-qualified a lot more. So the fact that they've actually gotten to the website means this is a very high intent, highly qualified visit. And so our ability to be able to say, like, ooh, this is someone who's come in through ChatGPT, like you should be prepared to pounce on this one and really personalize their experience. All right, I know we have a limited time, so let's get into the stuff that everyone wants here, is like actually talking about the features. So again, we're going to run through the hubs. Again, not fully exhaustive, but we're going to give as much of like the high impact features, and really just to kind of like the slides you're about to see. There's a lot of information on them. We'll do our best to kind of talk through them, but just to give you a sense of like how they're designed, there's a little bit of text on the slides explaining like what it is and what are some of the use cases, but draw your attention to the orange bubbles at the bottom. That'll give you an indication of like, is this fully live? Is this in beta? And like, what version of HubSpot is this available in? Right. So starting with the Marketing Hub, the next few slides will all be, I need to have Marketing Hub, but is it available at the free, starter, professional, or enterprise version of the product? So we'll run through all those now.
Alex, one of the questions that came ahead of
Please.
time, I think you sort of answered this, was so if I have a pro license and you're highlighting something that is a pro license, does that mean that I just get it, or do I have to pay extra for it?
Yeah, great question. So the short answer to that question is pretty much every single thing. If you already have Marketing Hub Pro, for example, and this is a new Marketing Hub Pro feature, you don't have to pay more for it. We will highlight in any cases where there may be a case where some things, especially related to like the agents, where it's like maybe there's some credits that need to be used. But again, even existing Pro customers have credits already included in their product. So maybe the only distinction I would draw is that in order to access it, if it's still in beta, you would need to opt into the beta or wait for it to be fully live. But as a golden rule here, most of the things we're talking about here today, if you already have the product, whether today or very soon, you're just going to have access to these new features.
Great, thank you.
Awesome. So one of the biggest things to really start wrapping our arms around is this concept of segments, right? So I put in parentheses lists here because on its face, this is a renaming of a product we already know, right? If you've been using the Marketing Hub, the concept of lists is not a new thing, right? I want to make a list of contacts that I'm going to send a marketing email to. I want to make a list of contacts that I want to invite to my next webinar hosted by BusyWeb, right? The concept of making lists is not new. So on its face, this is a renaming. But the reason we're renaming it is because it's also a real shift in the product strategy here. So this concept of segments, if you take nothing else away from this, again, available for pro and enterprise customers, this is now live. But this idea that there are two types of segments we're differentiating. The sort of traditional version of lists that we're all familiar with, the ability to like create a filtered list of like contacts, for example, based on property values, right? Show me everyone who has a life cycle stage of marketing qualified lead that is also a subscriber to our newsletter, that et cetera, right? But we're also introducing this concept of like web visitor segments that I think is really fascinating, right? Jen was already alluding to before, especially in this world of AEO, like as we get better and smarter at understanding intent and what's happening with those anonymous visits on their websites, we can learn a lot about who they are and sort of reverse engineer the segments we ought to go after. So one of the really cool AI powered features here is we're analyzing as much information as we can gather about those website visits, what country they're visiting from, maybe what industry the business they work for is in. And the AI is going to start to recommend and say, hey, you should create segments based on this ICP that we've identified, based on the visits you're already getting, to start to target them and be much more personalized the next time they arrive. So it's early days as we're really seeing the land and expand of this segments concept. But again, if nothing else, it's like it's not just a name change. We're also starting to see a much more powerful experience with what lists can do.
Well, and also with that, I mean, like you can see on the picture on the slide, I mean, they're giving you more real estate to build out a little bit more, more in depth. That you're not constrained as much as you were before, but also there's an analysis as part of this too, and you can Venn diagram where your overlaps are and where you're seeing the most traffic or visitors, or even how your ICP overlaps as well.
Yeah, I think brilliant call out, Jen. Two pieces of that. Spoken like someone who spends a lot of their time inside of HubSpot, right? Like literally from like how you interact with the tool, right? Like our product team is probably celebrating hearing you say that, right? The UI and the user experience, right? Just like if you have spent a lot of time inside of HubSpot tools, like nitpicking tiny little adjustments and changes, like having a much easier to point and click experience, of visual interface is much improved. And then there's the analysis part of that, right? Like how are the lists performing, how are they similar, what's the overlap, what's the opportunity. And again, like one of the things I really love about our product strategy is that like there's AI powered stuff underneath there, and sometimes we don't even call it that, right? But it's like it's going to also make suggestions based on this data and say like, hey, FYI, there's some natural overlap here. You might want to actually create the segment and go after it. So it's really helpful in terms of the like, and then what aspect of that go to market piece. Certainly goes hand in hand with a tool that right now is in beta, but will be going live very soon, is essentially a centralized personalization app, right? So again, if you've been a HubSpot user for a long time, like this concept of personalization has existed in all these different places, right? I can create personalization tokens in my marketing emails. I can think about like, how do I create different variants of calls to action so that different visitors see different versions of the asset when they visit the page.
Smart
But the
content.
idea, yeah, exactly, right? It's like all the contextual changes that we would want to make a truly personalized experience. The idea is that like we're bringing that under one roof to make it a lot easier to have your arms wrapped around all of the different channels and all the different places you can personalize, how it's performing, and again, AI powered recommendations based on what we are analyzing in the background and saying, I think you have an opportunity to go after this over here as well. So we're seeing a lot of this now. Like HubSpot's it's not your grandpa's HubSpot anymore. It's become quite a big platform, and this is a good example of like we started to see the dispersal of all these features, and sometimes we kind of just got to bring them back into one centralized place and say, if I am a marketing manager, I want to understand how are we approaching personalization across all our channels rather than having to log into 7 different apps and have 20 different tabs open. It's really helpful to just kind of like bring it all together. And again, the loop aspect of accelerating and going faster is like allowing you to do that analysis and tweaking and deployment faster than you normally would.
Yeah, and
Alex,
you can apply for this beta now, can't you?
Yes. So as a rule of thumb, if anyone is not familiar with that, Jen brings is a great point. If there are betas that you are seeing in the presentation today that you might want to opt into, if you're eligible to do so, if you click in the top right hand drop down in your portal, there's a product update section, and you should be able to self opt into many of the betas we're talking about today.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, if you'd like help, we can absolutely help you get there too.
Dave raises a very good point, which I think I'll be happy to brag on for a second here and just give some context. Like, there's so much information here. Part of it is that like you want to be able to talk to experts, not just about like what it is, but like when, where, and how to deploy it. So there's a lot of context about like, look at all these shiny new toys from HubSpot. Should I just turn everything on and go for it? On the one hand, like talking to an expert like Dave and Jen and Trigby is really helpful just to think through like order of operations. How would you actually deploy it? What are the consequences of turning this on? Does this actually make sense for me? So always good to think about what are the things that are resonating with you here today and having a follow-up conversation with Dave and Jen and Trigby about what does this actually mean for me? I have some thoughts.
Tanya asks, love, and she says, love this, a true personalization hub. Well, when will it roll out? So like I think everybody said, you can check and see if you're eligible for now, and then it'll roll out probably for everybody sometime in the next year. But
Yeah, I can
you do
actually
have
say
you do potentially have access to it now.
absolutely, yeah. So what I would say is like if you have Marketing Pro or Enterprise, you may already be eligible to opt into the beta. What I've seen as an early estimate is that it should be live to everyone by early November. It's a moving target, right? Don't quote me on an exact date, but I would say to Drigby's point, like certainly the vast majority of the betas we're talking about here today, you should have access to before the end of 2025.
And just so you guys know, like the difference between like betas and things like that, Public beta is open to everybody who has those specific portals. So if this is a marketing professional and enterprise, if you only have Sales Pro, you're not going to even see the beta available in your portal. If it says private beta, you might have to apply to get it. So, but there are buttons on each of those features, and you can absolutely apply to do that in your portal. And again, we are happy to help if you need to.
Absolutely. Awesome. Another sort of marketing hub feature here, just to keep the ball rolling, I think is very similar to this idea of like centralizing the experience, is this concept of the marketing studio.
This is my
Again,
favorite.
like for people like Jen, who spend a lot of time with 100 tabs open, trying to keep everything orchestrated. And honestly, a lot of the time, it's the number of times I've seen, even for a company as big and fancy as HubSpot, it's like the spreadsheets, the slide decks, the conversations happening in email and other project management tools. It's like, we want to execute a campaign. Why is it so hard to do it? And why does it take me 20 different tools to do it? The marketing studio, the idea honestly is like, it's like having the whiteboard right in front of you on the screen inside of HubSpot. But it's not just the whiteboard, right? Like, it would be all well and good to basically be able to say, all right, I want to have a landing page here, or a blog post there. I want to execute this workflow that launches these marketing emails, and to be able to like visually plan it. But it also has an interactive element where you can use sticky notes to literally have that conversation with your teammates in real time, and then literally build the assets without leaving the screen. So
Yes.
you can go from planning to execution to tweaking to redeploying all in one space. It's awesome.
It's so exciting because it brings in the best things from like a Miro board, the best things from campaigns. You can flow chart things, you can add in workflows, you can add in even sales stuff now. And it brings it all. This is what campaigns is going to turn into. So the analytics are fantastic. You can add in creative briefs now, attachments, external URLs. I mean, all those things that we always wanted to do before but couldn't, so that we had to use the spreadsheets. It's all there, and we've been playing with it internally. It's very, very cool. Our team is really excited about it. I think this is one of the biggest ones that came out.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear it. Again, don't take it just from me, but like the folks who are actually using the tools already, I think it's a great endorsement. And again, it's like this is one of those updates where it's like, it's really just about giving you the opportunity to do what you do as an intelligent human faster,
Yeah.
right? Like, again, like this isn't like a completely reconceptualized concept of what a campaign is. It's how to get a campaign deployed faster without it being a worse quality campaign, and then being able to analyze it faster so you can tweak and redeploy. And I
Mhm.
think that's a huge part of it here, is there's so many things around how do I stay competitive and stay relevant when it seems like everyone else around me is moving so fast. Well, we're trying to make sure that you have a fast car too. And at the same time, like not compromising on the quality, because this is your brand, right? You want your brand identity to be true and authentic. And so build the tools to allow you to do what you do faster without doing it worse.
One note on this, if you do opt into the public beta, this will take the place of campaigns for you, and it will automatically bring all your campaigns into the Marketing Studio framework, which makes things look a little weird, but all the data is still there. So if you do rely on that campaigns tool and you opt in, don't feel like you're losing things.
Yeah, that's a great call out, because that can be scary, right? Like you log into the product one day and suddenly it's not where I remembered it. And oh gosh, like, did I accidentally delete everything? That's a great, again, like on hand experience from Jen and the team. So again, this is in beta. You can opt in. If you are a little nervous about that, you can wait a little bit to do it. But I think to Jen's point, it's like we've seen firsthand, it's already ready for the prime time.
Before
To
we
answer Shabaz's question quick, with
Please.
Marketing Studio, who can see the assets that are being developed? There is a permission setting for viewability. So
Yeah, exactly. So it would be very similar to like what you're used to already with the campaigns tool. Like you can control who has access to what. So great call, Shabazz.
and then Madeline has another question. If we opt in, does this change for our entire team to Marketing Studio?
yes, it does.
Yep, great call. Okay, one more for Marketing Hub, and then we'll make sure we give some love to the other hubs here as well. Again, I think just like we've been talking about the big picture of campaigns, like zoom in on one of the most important pieces. There have been articles written about like annually for the last 20 years about is email dead? We are here to tell you it is not yet dead. And so part of it is like, how do we continue to evolve and iterate on email? Big, again, like I'm going to beat a dead horse here, but speed is so important here. And so a statistic that really kind of blew my mind was that on average, when we did a study to see like from conception to deployment for an average marketing email, how much time does it take for like an adept HubSpot user? So again, someone who like knows where to go and what buttons to click, but like let's say it's 60 minutes, right? So you're like, okay, cool. We have a sale coming up. Let's come up with that idea. You know, like maybe think of when was the last time you launched a campaign? All right, I got to think of subject line. Okay, let's make sure. Do I have the updated list? Does that include the people from the webinar? Right, going through that whole process to actually deploy the email can take about on average 60 minutes. We're seeing with these new AI powered email features that people can do that in under 5 minutes. And again, a big part of that is like it's still a human being at the end of the keyboard and making these decisions and reviewing and editing and making sure this happens live. But it's the AI powered tools that really help speed that process up for you. So I think this is, again, like we've seen the AI powered piece in a lot of different places, but I think one of the most impactful tools is going to be a marketing email. And so there's some really powerful stuff here. One little thing I'd call out too is you'll notice that starter is highlighted on this page. There is a lightweight version of this available for starter customers as well. So if you're sitting there thinking, I can't afford enterprise, this is not for me, this is a really good example of like pulling the power down the tiers to be able to say pro and starter deserve some of this fun stuff too. So coming very soon as a version of this that will also be available for starter, which is awesome.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Alex. One thing that I heard Kyle Jepson say that was in this also is smart send times for individuals on when they typically open your emails. So it's not
Yeah.
just time zone centric like it has been. You can actually get down to individual best send times.
Yeah, a rule of thumb for me is like if Kyle said it, it's probably true, and in this case, can confirm. That's the level of like advanced smart features we're starting to see with tools like this. Is that we are able to analyze all of the structured and unstructured data about the contacts in our CRM to be able to say not just how do I personalize the content, but the timing is a huge piece of that too, Jen. You're spot on. So while when you click send in the background, HubSpot's still working for you to say, maybe we'll wait, not just based on time zone, but like based on Dave's historical open behavior when he's most likely to open this email. So that's when we're going to make sure it shows up at the top of his inbox. Really cool stuff. Great call out. All right, let's make sure we give a little bit of love to our Content Hub friends. And again, we sort of alluded to this earlier, but just wanted to make sure we talk a little bit more specifically about like what does AEO look like inside of HubSpot, right? So when we were talking about loop marketing, we were exploring AEO as a concept. I remember the first time I heard of this, someone actually referred to it as GEO. It was like generative engine optimization. So again, like within the industry, we're starting to really kind of wrap our arms around these concepts. And so HubSpot says, all right, so since this is an important thing to be able to understand, we want to give you a tool that helps you do just that. So I think the best way to think about it is it's our ability to analyze all of your website content and basically give you an assessment of how are you doing right now in your likelihood of actually being surfaced in an AI engine experience, right? How likely are you to be surfaced as an AI summary in Google? How likely are you to be recommended if someone's asking a question in ChatGPT? And it's going to provide an in-depth analysis of what you're doing well, what are areas of opportunity, what are sort of like clusters around this that you should be thinking about. It's really, so you're sort of thinking there saying, okay, I get that SEO is changing underneath our feet and AEO is this new frontier, but like, where do I even begin? This tool is here to help you figure out where to begin.
And this is one of the things that most of our Content Hub clients are super excited about because it's definitely the buzzword, but more and more people are going into ChatGPT, Gemini, all of the others to search. It's just a different way of publishing content in a slightly more interactive format, but having this tool to help guide you through it is so, so helpful. So I'm super excited about this one too.
Yeah, it's a great call, Dave. And so again, like for Content Hub Pro and enterprise customers out there, you'll get access to this. There's no additional cost. It's going to be just like a new strategy home. I think about it was maybe in the last 5 to 10 years, we were talking a lot about like topic clusters and pillar pages and like how do I visualize sort of semantic concepts and links and how is my content viewed by these engines? Like it's very similar, right? Like we understand what are the what powers the algorithm behind the engine, right? It's the same concept with Google as it is here with these LLMs. And so with all those things, like understanding how the delivery system works is a really important part of understanding how do I craft my content so that it is actually helpful to the people that need the help.
Alex, Jessica asks a great question. Is
Mm.
this tool available if your website is not on the HubSpot CMS?
Yes, it's a great question. So our ability to be able to like track what content you have live is largely based on the tracking code that you have in your website. So a lot of customers are what I would call like partially hosted, right? Like maybe you have a WordPress website, but you have HubSpot landing pages that you deploy as well. So whether it's a hybrid approach, whether you're all on the Content Hub, or if you have most of your content hosted elsewhere, like this would still apply. The distinction I would say though is that like you do need to have the Content Hub. So the idea there is that like if you have the Content Hub, you're probably doing some hosting on HubSpot,
Oh, that's a good
if
point.
not all of
Yeah,
it.
because in order to get the tool, you need the Content Hub. So you can't
Yeah.
necessarily, you could still use it on a different website, but why would you have the Content Hub at that point? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
that's
we'll convert you slowly over time. But
yeah,
again,
oh
to be
yeah,
fair, there are a lot of people that have a hybrid approach, which I think is totally valid, right?
mhm,
Like you
absolutely.
you maybe have like a microsite approach, or you have like different sub brands that you're using in HubSpot, host your landing pages, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, if you have Content Hub, this is the path to the AEO strategy tool.
Beautiful. And a lot of folks probably have Content Hub and might not even realize it because they may have gotten it as part of the customer platform.
Or
Yeah,
marketing,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah, exactly. With all the new bundles that we have with HubSpot, there's so many tools. Like you may even have access to things you didn't even realize, which again, that's why it's always worth having a chat with the busy web folks. They can really help unpack what you got. All right.
Awesome.
We got to make sure we give some love to our Sales Hub friends. And we're looking like we're making pretty good time here. So I want to make sure we get love to everyone. Um, so inbound 2024 was kind of the agent revolution, and we announced for the first time some of the agents that HubSpot was building. So it's crazy to see a year later the progress we've made on some of those things. So starting with our friend, the prospecting agent, I think I've had a lot of conversations, honestly, with Trigby as well. We've talked very tactically about like how we actually use it in our day-to-day lives and where we've seen areas that we wanted to see it improve, and excited to see like honestly the latest version of the prospecting agent. I think like one of the simplest things to like maybe put a title on this is like agents as a concept are like the AI tools that are doing work on your behalf, right? They're taking multiple steps. And so the biggest thing that presents to you as someone who is working in a sales capacity and has to spend time prospecting it takes so much of the tedious little bits of those steps off your plate, right? So think about how much time you maybe spend trolling through LinkedIn, doing research on prospects' websites, just literally trying to find out as much information as possible to figure out, is this prospect a good fit? What's my in? How do I personalize my approach and my outreach? Prospecting agent is going to be doing most of that for you. I think a big part of it as well is that like you have the ability to have some of that control, right? To Jen's point, you still have the human touch. You still have the ability to have a semi-autonomous approach. So it's like going to go out and do all this research for you. It's going to craft up some emails for you to review, but you still have the chance to review and tweak because you still can't replace a human's intuition at this point in time. So really excited to see the prospecting agent take like another leap forward and just get more dynamic, doing continuous research. I think that's an important part about this is you might have a prospect you identified a while ago, but all of a sudden there's a job title change. What does that mean for my approach? Maybe now is a time to shift my tactic with that prospect. Maybe I thought they were disqualified before, but all of a sudden that changes everything. So its ability to continuously research in the background and keep you informed, I think is a really, really exciting leap forward. Another one to really get excited about is if folks who have spent much time in the sales workspace, right? Like used to be called the prospecting workspace. HubSpot's keeping everyone on their toes by changing names of things, but spending time inside the sales workspace is also getting more and more valuable. I think there's a couple things in here, so we're sort of categorizing this like smarter sales meetings. So we've all been there. You have a meeting to prepare for in about 20 minutes. Where do you start, right? I got to remember what I talked about the last time I was on the call with Jen. I don't have enough time to listen to the recording. Maybe I took good notes. I hope I did. I don't know. Like, I'm just going to wing it. This is designed to prevent you from winging it. It's doing all that work in the background to analyze. I think the really critical thing here is structured and unstructured data, right? So when we say unstructured, that's like call transcripts, notes, logged emails, not just the record properties where I know what Jen's title is or whether she's a qualified lead, but like everything we could know about Jen, I want to summarize that and help me prepare for and then be present on during the meeting and follow up effectively. It's really just like your virtual assistant helping you make sure you are paying attention to the right things at the right time so that you actually have a productive meeting, which is all we really want.
Also in beta is iOS has a live meeting recording feature within the HubSpot mobile app.
Yeah, big time. That's been anticipated for a long time. Really excited to see that start to roll out. Is like there are a million great options out there for that type of functionality, but if I could just have it baked into HubSpot, wouldn't that make my life easier? So
Right?
great call out, Jen.
And
Great
if I
call
can
out.
get super nerdy for just a second, I
Please.
texted Trigby about this yesterday. With iOS 26, you can also connect your HubSpot to your phone call information, and then you can ignore calls that you don't know about, but you can add your HubSpot database to that data set. So you'll actually get calls through if they're in your HubSpot and you're a sales rep, for example, or you can ignore those or send them to a recording if they're not,
Oh,
which
that's
is
fun.
fantastic. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's really great. So you're saying that like it's going to start ignoring the calls that I get from Trigby?
Yes.
Well, you can
No,
use
because
can
I'm in your
selectively do
CRM.
that.
So you'd have to take me out of the CRM to do that.
I would never dream of it. I would never dream of it.
Gabriel asks, when you say live meeting, you mean in person? You have your phone record the meeting.
That is correct. With iOS only currently, and it's in beta.
Just
Yeah,
need the app.
really cool. Really
And
cool.
Louise says, is this functionality coming to Android devices?
I would expect so. It's definitely a familiar pattern. Jen is right to point out that like it's specifically for iOS right now. The reality is that like, and look, I'm not a software developer, but I just have observed this over the years that like developing our mobile version for iOS and Android, they're different operating systems, they're different tools, and so sometimes there's a little bit of like one will arrive before the other. But rest assured, one of the things the product team is really, really good at is like analyzing the feedback and the demand for new features. And so I think they're very aware of how excited people are for iOS. And so they're certainly working on making that available for Android as well. So that's my assumption. I don't quote me because I'm not a product manager on our Android mobile team, but I would assume that like if this proves to be a valuable tool, we will very quickly try to prioritize it for Android as well. Very cool.
One last question. Does
Please.
AI Note Taker offer any language translation capabilities?
Yes, great question. So I think the language translation stuff is in development right now. There's going to be, I think the last time I checked on it, there were going to be a few of the expected, like most common languages that we'd be able to translate first. But I'll have to double check with the product team on like where that lands because this is one of those Russian nesting dolls. Like sometimes there's a beta within a beta that happens where it's like there's a new feature but then like the enhancement to that beta is also being developed at the same time. So it's a great question. I can double check with the team, and maybe that's one that if you follow up with the Busy Web team, we'll make sure we get you an answer for that after this.
Well, I know with the new iOS 26, because Dave and I were texting yesterday because we're getting new phones, is that Apple Intelligence has does live translations. So
It's crazy. A friend of mine was telling me about that with the AirPods as well, like real time translation in your ears.
Oh, very fun.
Man, we're moving into the future
It's very
fast,
wild.
guys. Crazy.
And time check, Alex, because I know we've got a lot. We've got like 18 minutes left for our
Perfect.
questions, and I know we want to do more Q&A. The Q&A, keep it coming. This is all, this is your time. So thank you all very much for all the questions, but I want to make sure we get through all of Alex's content.
Absolutely. We'll keep it rocking. All right. So, Commerce Hub. That's maybe a term you guys have been familiar with, but I think up until recently, it's been a little bit of a misnomer, right? Like Commerce Hub hasn't really been its own standalone hub in earnest until now. So that was one of the probably the biggest updates from inbound was like this is the first time we've ever offered this as a SKU, right? As a real paid hub. You can buy a Commerce Hub seat. And so the sort of headline feature of that is the CPQ tool, right? So configure price quote, if you're not familiar with the term. The idea here, I think, is that like if you have ever been an in-seat salesperson and the tedium of having to go from the excitement of getting a verbal yes, I want to buy your product or your service, and now I have to actually build the quote and get finance involved and actually get the paper pushers to get the signatures in place and get the money flowing, but like that's the finish line, that's the really important piece, but it's often tedious, right? Especially if you sell a complex product, right? How do I build and make sure the discounts are in the right place and include all their own line items? So one of the really cool things here too is that like this is again going to speed up that work for you and say, hey, because we have all this deal information and all the information from your logged calls and your meetings and the conversations you've had throughout the whole sales cycle, when you go to generate the quote, it's going to jump ahead a few steps and say, based on everything we have here, we know that these are the quotes and the products they talked about. These are the things that they said they wanted. These are the terms they asked for. Oh, shoot, I got to generate a cover letter. So this looks really nice and polished. I'm going to click the AI button and boom, it's going to write a cover letter for you because it already knows your brand voice and it already knows the situation and what products you sell. So it's really cool. It's like speeding up that process, the tedious process that is oftentimes a stumbling block right when you're at the finish line about to close a deal. It's really exciting to like be getting into that space now where we can start to really compete with some of these CPQ tools. But again, speed that up without losing any of the quality. Make sure that you can actually get to payment fast and hit revenue fast. Really exciting stuff.
There's a couple points I wanted to hit on this,
Please.
Alex, if you don't mind. I went to the deep dive at Inbound, and there was an
Love it.
admin bug yesterday that HubSpot held. They did develop this for like SaaS and service companies. So if you're looking for a CPQ for like component level custom manufacturing kind of thing, this tool probably won't work for you. However, it does look really cool. You can add attachments now, the cover letters, you can do more proposal-y kind of things. And they're looking into roadmaps for things like bundles and things. So, I mean, so that's very, very exciting. But also, like Alex alluded to earlier, it will require a seat in Commerce Hub, which is a new product from HubSpot. So if you're not honest, if you have the legacy quoting tool, you will have access to that. New people to HubSpot will have to have a Pro or Enterprise for quoters only. So if not all of your sales team quotes, you don't have to worry about it. And approvers don't need a quoting seat. So just a couple points to pull out.
Yeah, no, great call outs. And I think just to emphasize one thing there, this is a really good example of this is something I think worth getting very excited about. And for a lot of people, keeping a close eye on. So, like to Jen's point, there are going to be some use cases that this isn't quite yet the perfect fit for you. But I'm very bullish on what this is going to look like in the next 3, 6, 12 months as the product team really leans further into this. And again, as we've seen with the pace of innovation, it won't be long before this is doing more and more cool stuff. All right, one more category that I think is really important that I want to run through a couple updates here is Data Hub. So you might be thinking, is this the 6th, 7th, 8th hub at HubSpot? What happened to Operations Hub? The first thing to say is Data Hub is the new name for Operations Hub. So if you were an Operations Hub user, some of the stuff will sound familiar. If you've never considered buying those hubs before, Data Hub, I think, is a really important evolution in that hub. Why is it important? Let's talk about some of those features. We talked about the marketing studio earlier, kind of a similar concept, right? I want to create a studio space for me to do dynamic work. Very similar thing here. So you think about how often you're like, okay, I got a bunch of data in my CRM, but also, as much as we all like to avoid it, I got a bunch of stuff over here in a spreadsheet. Maybe I even have like a data lake that I use, like Snowflake, right? Like we got data all over the place.
My accounting
And so,
system.
yeah, like how do I actually get it in one place so I can play with it and make something of it? And so that's the idea with the data studio. So being able to bring all those sources under one roof, be able to manipulate the data, work with the data, enhance and enrich the data. It's again like the playground for you to actually do all that work in one place so that you can turn your data into something that actually powers actions, next steps.
And it allows you to do cross-system reporting, you guys. You can, with the click of a button, say, I want these fields from these systems to be pulled into this list, kind of like the picture is showing. And then you can do reports, or you can export all the data to be able to act on it if you want to. It's
Super
really
cool.
exciting.
Yeah. Like anyone who's a little bit of like the resident Excel wizard at your company, like this is going to be like for the Excel nerds. Like it will look and feel like all that cool stuff you can do with Excel, but just I'm making it so much easier to pull all those data sources in. Super, super cool. Another feature I did want to highlight quickly as well is this concept of the data quality overview. Um, so not a new feature, right? Again, this was in Operations Hub, but this is now that much more powerful. The other thing I'll call out here, it's not listed here, but like pretty soon it does look like we're going to be launching a starter version of this as well. So again, for folks that maybe had the starter, the professional customer platform, or just the starter customer platform, I just had Operations Hub starter. Like there's going to be a version of this that's going to be available to you in the not too distant future. But again, like we put almost all this effort into capturing data, but we all know that like bad data in means bad data out. So like having an ability to have a centralized overview of like where are we with our data problems, and then especially for our pro and enterprise users, to proactively be able to automate fixes of those things at scale, so they are not just a one-time problem, it's a all-time solution for solving those problems at scale. Really important.
I think this is a really good example, and because I hear Jen in my head saying that, talking about this, that this is a really good example of why the human factor really needs to come into play too, because the AI can do some things, but contextually, it can't tell you whether or not the data is fundamentally in the wrong place. It can make it look pretty, but you still have to be able to look at it and examine it.
However, one of the
Love that.
things that it's going to allow you to do is to say, I want to look at duplicates with these fields as opposed to just email for contacts or domain
Yep.
for companies. You can choose the fields that you want to say, these are what I want to consider as duplicates. And then also you can say, just automatically fix it. I don't want to pay attention to it. So
Yeah.
but you get to set those controls. So
Yeah. It's a really great tactical call out. Is like historically HubSpot has used these fields. Those aren't the fields that are most important to me. How do I find the duplicates that matter to my business? Now you have control over that. It's a great call out, John. Okay, another category here to run through, smart CRM. So I think when we talked about the launch of CPQ and Commerce Hub, this is the one other feature where it's like, this is actually a new product in some senses. Like you can now buy standalone smart CRM seats if all you really need from HubSpot is just the smart CRM. That being said, there are also going to be some cases where it's like these sort of smart features are available depending on what other subscriptions I have. But as a category, for the sake of today's conversation, we're talking about the concept of smart CRM. And again, if you buy just those seats, this is what you would have access to. So again, I think like one thing I love about this particular slide is this is available all the way down to the free version of HubSpot, right? So
so
under
cool.
the category of like, this is the smart CRM stuff we're focusing on to make your CRM actually really smart and impactful. But like, it doesn't matter what version of HubSpot you have, like you have access to some level of this type of flexibility, which is really, really important. And I think for like the nerds among us who are like thinking about the different ways to visualize stuff inside of HubSpot, like there are a lot of times where historically we're like, oh, it's really cool that I can do this over here, but why can't I do it over there? Like, I just want to interact with my CRM and my data the way I prefer. Now you can. So whether it's a table view, an index view, or like just being able to turn your listed data into
Into a
reports
report.
in real time,
Yeah.
super helpful. Some of us are extremely visual creatures, and just like being able to see like, actually, what does that look like as a Gantt chart? I want to see like how this progresses with the time element of things. Where's the overlap of my data? So cool, so flexible. Love to see that. The other thing I think that's really fascinating and was getting a lot of oohs and ahs at inbound, and again, like there's a version of this that's available all the way down at free, is this concept of like self-generating CRM data. Like our ability to enrich information is really critical. And if you were paying attention last year when we launched the Breeze products, this is something that you used to have to pay extra for, but like now there's this element of like being able to enrich contact and company stuff for free. So again, even our friends all the way down on the free version or a starter version of HubSpot can start to do that. But even further, like if you're on a pro level of HubSpot, conversational enrichment, right? Like again, these emails and these transcripts are coming into the system and they live over here. But how do I extract the information from that unstructured data and turn it into structured data, right? So there's really cool stuff happening here. We're like very early innings with this stuff, but I think it's really cool that like your CRM should be doing these things for you in the background so that you, when you log in the morning, have the benefit of the data in the place you want it and need it to actually do something with it. It's really cool.
It's very exciting.
Love that.
And just so you guys know, for that data enrichment, you do have to turn it on in the back of your portal. So it is live right now, but you do have to turn it on, and you can say if it continually updates just once, if it's contacts and companies or whatever. But those are things that you are going to want to do, and if you want to take advantage of that.
Great call out. I know we're short on time, so I'm going to make sure we get to a couple more slides here. Smart Insights, I think a very similar thing, right? It's like the AI features are analyzing your structured and unstructured data and providing an insight to you without you having to ask it. So like this concept of like a catch-up card that would surface information and be like, oh, by the way, here's an insight that we've noticed we want to make sure you pay attention to before you move away to the next screen. So you'll start to see that in more places now inside of HubSpot. Again, like all versions of HubSpot, just the unprompted insights that are there to give you a sense of, I otherwise would have missed it if I didn't have time to go digging for it, but we're doing the digging for you. One other really cool one, again, just like for this has been a speculation forever since I worked in HubSpot, like will we ever actually have like a real bona fide project set up? So we do have a project object now, which is really cool. Again, where that Gantt chart view comes into place. The screenshot is literally one for me just playing around with this in my own demo portal, which is really fun. So it's like in the past where we've said, if I had enterprise, maybe I would create a custom object to be able to do this for myself, but now you don't have to ask the question. You should be able to handle things in a project capacity in your own system, whether you're on pro, enterprise, starter. So really cool, just like giving you more in terms of the data model you can literally build inside your CRM, which is really fun. Last couple of things here under the Breeze category I want to make sure we allude to. And we've talked about a few of these already, so we'll just make sure we put a bow in it. But I mentioned this earlier, but like for the people giving back, you used to have to pay extra for contact and company enrichment. It's now included. So if you have a paid HubSpot subscription, you can automatically enrich these records and you don't have to consume credits in order to do that, which is really great. We know how important it is to have up-to-date information. Maybe all you have to go on is someone's first name, last name, and email, and I want to be able to enrich and find out more about them. For the contacts and company level, really helpful to be able to have full access to that.
And it's free.
You love that, right? So the Breeze marketplace and Breeze Studio. This is the third time we've mentioned a studio, right? So there's Marketing Studio, Data Studio, and now Breeze Studio. Same concept, right? It's like I want to take something from the marketplace, pull it into my studio inside my portal where I can work with it, have it all in one place. So if you are one of those people who are a little bit more AI forward and you're starting to play with agents and maybe customize your assistants and you're deploying these things within your business, the studio is that one centralized place that allows you to customize and do all those cool things. So I mentioned two categories of that. There's the Breeze Assistant. Again, this is free, still free. Over the last year, if you think about, we've talked a lot about like the Copilot.
Copilot,
it's
yeah.
the same thing. It's just like the Breeze Assistant is your personal assistant, right? It's your chief of staff. It's that little chat window that's always right there to say, gosh, I'm going to ask this a quick question. But what's really cool about it is you can literally build your own from scratch. You can train it to do whatever you want it to do. You can build a sales assistant for your sales team based on not just the data inside your CRM, but like assets you give it about your sales rules and sales process. And you can deploy multiple assistants. You can take assistants from the marketplace that we've already pre-built for you, but it's really cool this world of like I can actually customize it. They have deeper research capabilities. They have better memory now. So like they're more and more powerful than they used to be. The customer agent, I would say, is like the one that is probably our best shining example. It's like been the most successful for our customers. It resolves over 50% of the inquiries it receives. So this is one of the only 3 agents right now that actually does require the consumption of credits. So certainly you want to be aware of that when you're thinking about using it. And a great conversation to have with the folks at BusyWeb about like, do I have enough credits? Do I have my settings set up correctly so I don't like consume too many credits? Like, how does this actually work? Can you help me customize this? A great use case for that. I think it's really important to say that the customer agent is not just for customer support, right? It's available for all the pro hubs. People use it to have qualifying sales conversations, not just I have a customer and I'm a customer and I have a problem. Can you help me with this? There's some really cool things you can do with it. Lastly, we have the data agent. So customer agent, prospecting agent, and data agent. These are right now the only 3 agents that require credits to actually use them. And again, if you're a marketing hub, sales hub, service hub, pro, enterprise customer, you already have credits in your portal to use. Everyone comes with a baseline amount of credits. It's really easy to start just testing this stuff a little bit. The data agent is kind of like the realization of all those data hub stuff we were talking about earlier, allowing it to do that deep research on your behalf, analyze things, basically go out there, ask it a question, and have it proactively go out and like fill in that information for you. Take unstructured data, turn it into structured data, really take you into the new millennium with like all this really powerful stuff. We're living in the Jetsons world. It's really crazy when we see the data agent do all this stuff. So I know we only have like a minute or so here. I want to give Dave and the team time to wrap this up, but we'll make sure we include this when we send this out. Like all of this information is also online. We do have this on our Spotlight page on our website. There's really, really cool stuff there that I didn't even have time to mention today. But honestly, we'll be talking about this for months to come. So don't be afraid to lean on your pals over here at BusyWeb to help you take it to the next level. I think there's so much opportunity out there for you guys. So thank you for letting me talk myself crazy over here, and over to you guys to take us home.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. And thanks to Trigby and Jen as well for all of the color commentary. We had so many questions and so many people ask. Wanted to make a note, this is being recorded and it's live on our YouTube channel. Also, you'll see our next busy webinar is coming up ahead, how to get better leads from your online ads. That's on Wednesday the 1st. Right after that, on the 2nd, we have a special HubSpot user group going out on loop marketing, marketing in the age of AI. That's Jen and Trigvi. So if you want to hear more about loop marketing and how that changes everything, and trust me, it is, make sure to subscribe up. I did include the links to the Hug and to our events listing in the chat. And again, you can get the recording of today's event by going to YouTube, searching for BusyWeb, and then you'll see this live in our I believe they call it the streams or the live videos. So make sure to subscribe there. If you have any
Also,
other
I did want to
questions,
do
yeah.
one little call out to for the hugs and our Twin City HubSpot user group. We are going to be doing office hours once a month as well. So we'll be publishing more webinars for the remainder of the year, and then we're going to offer a office hours so we could do Q&A or troubleshooting, or dive into any of these features if you'd like. But I do want to give a big thank you to Alex. Alex, thank you for coming and presenting to us today. Always great to have HubSpot in the house.
It's
Thank you guys
great.
for having me.
Alex. Thank
Really
you so
fun.
much. For anyone that we didn't get to your questions, we do have our list of questions that we wanted to get to, and everybody was so on the ball with their questions live. We didn't get to all of them, so we will be sending you an answer to your questions if you submitted it during the registration process. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us, and can't wait to chat to you next time. Talk to you soon.